more money than we've taken in. You know, we've always gone above and beyond what's been collected to try to do as much promotion as possible.
In the past, that's true.
Yes.
Invite everybody to take a look at 1997. The third year of us having the lodging tax in place also happens to be the largest collection and our largest positive balance.
Is it allotted so much per room?
It's 3%.
3%, 8%.
3%. The other thing, you really have to decide, you know, we have an ordinance that's in place, and the rules are spelled out. And we expect all the lodging establishments to follow those rules. And, some are not as willing to do that as others are. Some are a little slower at doing their reports than others. And the one hasn't filed any for 2014 at all. Loken's didn't file anything for 2014. So you'll have to kind of decide if you want to tell them they need to file for 2014 because they were in business for 2014.
But didn't they say they didn't understand they had to pay that lodging tax?
In August, I sent them forms and reminders, you know, to get the paperwork done by a certain time. And then in September, they came to a meeting and said they didn't know they were supposed to be doing it. But, so they've known since August. So they really are responsible, I would think, for the last quarter of the year at least.
They've been collecting it since January.
They started in January now?
They said that's what they said at the meeting.
What would have to be rewritten to make sure that the HBC and Rushford and Peterson, the monies stayed in this area?
I think we'd have to work with the chamber. To me, it would seem that we would work with the chamber and ask them to provide us some details as to how they would envision utilizing the funds. And then from that point, we could have further discussions with them before we change the ordinance.
Let's do that.
Our chamber president's here. Doug, would you like to make a comment?
Well, I'd like to ask the question. I'd like to get back to what Kathy was trying to raise as an issue about Loken's not making their payments, and I didn't hear you complete that conversation. I think you need to make a decision on that. Speaking as a chamber president and the owner of a lodging establishment, I think you need to try to reach some sort of equity amongst all of the establishments, not just single one out and say you pay and the other ones don't pay. So I'd like to hear more discussion on that before I talk about anything else.
Have you talked to them at all, Loken's?
It's really not for me to do.
It isn't.
Is anybody here?
Us.
We paid our bills, that's our responsibility, and
Yeah.
it's you
Everybody
guys
showed up at
you
that.
guys control the ordinance.
Yeah, they showed up at the chamber meeting?
No.
Yes, they were with us
They
here.
were here when we met here, they were here.
As far as I'm concerned, Loken's is responsible for 2014 as well.
The whole year.
Well, since they were open.
So that would be August, September, October, November, December, 5 months.
You
I
know,
don't know if they had that many visitors.
If I could, am I still free to talk here?
Go ahead, Doug, please.
Kathy mentioned something, I think you said $800 short
Yeah, that's what we are now, they're not, yeah.
Okay.
So 2014.
If you take Vulcan's money that they haven't paid, it's really gonna cut into that $800, so it should make that decision easier for you. Sure.
With Vulcan's,
I had something else to say too.
they wouldn't bill us that much, would they?
I have no idea.
Go ahead.
I know that they were notified in August, and it's 3% of their sales, whether they charge their customers or not. So I would expect that they would be paying from the date that the city council determined that they were, need to be collecting, whether they collect or not, that they are paying. Because we are, and what's good for one has to be good for the other. Doesn't matter if they're busy or not, I mean, times are tough for everybody, so we collect, that's not our money at home. If they choose not to collect it, they still owe 3%. And that's how the law is written. And there is also penalty on that, which I know the city has never imposed, but there is penalty for late fees. That's all I got.
Thank you.
I'd like to comment, I guess.
Excuse me?
I would like to comment on that.
I've already commented, they've been open. They should be collecting the lodging tax. I put my comment out there, so.
How about the rest of the council? How do they feel individually? They feel if, the other lodging establishments in this town are paying their 3% tax, should Locals or anybody for that matter do the same?
Most definitely.
That's the way I feel to them, that they're obligated to pay it.
I guess what's good for one is good for the others. It's, once they knew about it at least.
Yeah.
So, if they were not made aware of it until August, that's an entire different story.
They're saying that,
So-
I know that when we
Depends
file,
on the-
that we have to provide our state sales tax
that's
Okay.
to the city, so it's easy to track it.
Okay.
So they would have all that information.
It's 3% of their
Yeah.
sales, and it's,
So, depending upon the occupancy that they had in August through December.
and you.
Well, it's based on the,
It's based on
they said
the- they have to
they
feel-
went out of room, it's 3% on that.
Yeah, they have to file
Oh.
sales tax, so right in the ordinance it talks about that.
So every time someone gets a room there and they pay for it.
That's what I assumed,
Yeah.
yes. Not on the number of rooms they have.
No. It's on,
That's
it's on
clarification.
what they rent,
Yeah.
rental, yeah.
That's a given.
Well, I was at the meeting, Doug, and I really appreciated the conversation that day. I think the thing that stuck out in my mind was, there seems to be a need for clarification on what exactly the lodging tax is used for. Our whole group, was searching for a bit of an answer there. When it was initiated 20 years ago, it was determined that was one way for the city to support the regional tourist effort at the time. That was right after the state trail, hit the ground. And so everybody was trying to do something to create that pool of money that we could use to attract. And the Convention and Visitors Bureau concept of HBC seemed to be the most workable for the city at the time. I'm not totally convinced that that's still the best option right now.